And hello there. So here we are. We're on, let's see, episode 1, 2, well, episode 3, if you exclude the first episode, which is episode 0. All right. So what have we done? We've done some basic C# on our first 2 episodes, which are in here. Okay, so this is, I've left it in there for reference, right, but what I have done is I've commented out the calls, no other reason than it just makes me feel better. A comment, if you remember, is just 2 forward lines, like that, okay, 2 dashes. Lovely, so I've commented out all our 4 instruction things, so it goes straight into our game. Alright, so what are we going to do? This should be a fairly quick introduction. I'm going to skip over some fundamentals and you're just going to have to bear with me and copy what I do. It just saves hours and hours of me going over fundamentals of C#. We don't really need to know them at this time. This is something that you can learn at your leisure, but if you follow my instructions, letter for letter, word for word, we will have the starts of our game. So I'm going to pick a font. So I'm going to choose a Windows font, but I'm going to download one because I want a gamey one. So I'll show you how to do that. Then we're going to include that as a resource into our game, and we're going to display a test string. How wonderful is that? And you'll be surprised how quick we will do that. After that, I'm going to, with you, we're going to create a little 2x2 PNG image. And it's just a picture which is 2 pixels across and 2 pixels down. And we're going to use that as just a blank color, generally white. And we will then use that to stretch and draw on our screen, so we'll then have coloured rectangles and squares. So our objective is to display a nice funky Space Invaders gaming font, and we will put our title at the top of the screen, and then we will display some coloured boxes, and this is the start for us drawing onto the screen. This is the start of our game. How wonderful is that? Alright, so first things first, you might say to yourself, so I'm going to see if I can bring up this without actually showing any of the recording software. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to drag this window across here and drop it. Oh, I have found a font. So what I've done is I've gone for free fonts and gone to the second one, dafont.com. Okay, and within there I've typed outer space, done a search, and it's come up with 3. Now I really like this one, so I've selected this. There are loads, so you can pick whatever one you want, but I love this one. If we have a look at the image, it's perfect for our game. Perfect. It's got some restrictions in the fact it's got no nice other characters, but we just want big bold letters and numbers. That's all we need for now. I don't like the 7. So we'll have another font for the in-game one, but just for the menus, this is great. Alright, so lovely. So how are we going to use this? Neil, how are we going to use this? Well, calm down. I'll show you. Okay, here we have a download. So what I've done is I've gone outer space, selected this font, it's come up here. We need the TTF file. This is called outerspace.ttf. So download. So just click on it and then do save as. Now I'm assuming that you have something that will open a .zip file. If not, I'm just going to quickly show. No, won't. You can download ones. I would go for 7-zip. Okay, and download this one here. Download the one appropriate to your system, generally 64-bit. So download 7-zip, follow the instructions. It will integrate into your environment, and it will allow you to open zip files, create zip files, and everything. It's all very good, and it's free. And I would say a lot more effective than WinZip. All right, so we are here. We want our font, so we're going to download it again. So I press download. I'm going to do save as. Then I'm going to go here. Ignore them all. You only have one. So I'll then open it, and you'll see there's one file in there within the zip file. Just double click on it. So just double click on it, and it will install. I've already got it installed, so I'm not going to install it. So you go outer space regular, you got that one there, you've got print and install. Hit install, and it will install into your Windows. Okay, so you hit install, it'll flash, and then that'll be it. So you then close this file, close this one, you don't need them anymore. Just to make sure, go down to start, type font, click on font settings, and it should bring up a window in the right window. So I'll move that across, and you bring up with this window. Now in the available fonts, start fighting outer. Here it is, outer space. It's installed onto our system. Lovely. All right, so we have our font installed. Now we need to include that in our game. How easy is it? It's actually only 3 lines of code. How amazing is that? First of all, though, we need to add it as a resource. Now, do you remember, many, wave your hands together and go into that dream state to remember many episodes ago when we did the installation, one of the things that we installed was the MGCB editor. Woohoo! Because this allows us to edit our content. So I have this content.mgcb. It's in the content directory, so open that one up, the folder, go down and double click on content.mgcb. So we'll double click on that, and it should bring up this window because we've installed the editor. Okay, so what's all this? Ignore it all. Yeah, I laugh so much I have to cough. Go to content in the project ones, highlight it, and then right click, and then go add new item. And then it's bringing up, it's got 4 or 5 options in there. We don't want to do this sprite font because I've tried it, it doesn't work. You want this one, which is just sprite font description dot sprite font. Now you highlight this one. Just click it once to highlight it, then go into name. We don't want to call it file, we want to call it outer space. No spaces, so I'll just call it this. Lovely. So we've got outer space. What that's going to do is create an outer space dot sprite font. So just hit create. It's done it. It's created it there. You notice it's created it there. Okay, so for now we're just going to close this. Hit the close, and please don't crash. Please don't crash on me. Okay, so thank you. Do you want to save it? Yes, please. So I'll save it. Lovely. We now want to edit this outer space dot sprite font. So you just single click on it, and it loads it in. This is an XML file. Ignore what that is. There's 2 things we need to edit in here, and that's it. We need to edit the font name and the size of the font. Now they're right here in front of us. So we've got Arial. So we're just going to highlight that, delete it, and type outer space with a space like that. That is the name of our font. Outer space with a space. Outer space space. Outer space space. Yeah. All right, I won't do that again. Okay, so we put the correct name in there, and I'm going to make that 24 because I know, because I've done this video before and I got the wrong resolution size. So you had this tiny little box in this massive window. Because to me, I'm suffering here. I've reduced my monitor size to HD, so it's now 1920 by 1080. That is so you can read it. It makes it a little bit easier to understand. All right, so what we've done, we've opened this file, outerspace.spritefont. We've changed the name and we've changed the size to outerspace to 24, which makes it 24 pixels wide. And we're now going to save it. Alright, so we've done that bit. We now want to load it into our game. So what we want to do is open classic Space Invaders.cs. Now remember, CS stands for C#. I very nearly forgot. Alright, so it's your C# file. Alright, a little bit of brief history. Well, an introduction to this file. This is a class. Now, all you need to know is that a class has certain functionality within it. Constructors, destructors, public functions, private functions, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. It can inherit, its interfaces. We'll learn that as we go along. For now, all we need to know is that within this group of functions are our important ones, and that is our constructor. You know it's a constructor because it's the same name as the actual class, and it's got no return type. It's just a public and then the name of the class. In this case is Classic Space Invaders. Now in here is where we will put our initialization and setting things up. We don't need to add anything here at the moment. There's another function which will interest her at a later date, and that is initialize. Now that is something when this will get called part of the framework. When I mean the framework, it's the MONOGAME will call this at the appropriate time for you to initialize certain stuff. We don't need to add anything at the moment. What we are going to add, we're going to add a couple of items into our load content because we need to load our sprite, but we'll do that in a minute. And down below we have an update. So this is where we put all our game logic. It says add your update logic here. This is our game logic. This is stuff that will move our invaders, allow our bullet to fly up the screen, allow the invaders' rockets to come down. If there's an explosion, it will do the explosion. It's just going to be so exciting. Alright, that's where we do our game logic. All our drawing, that's all the sprites, all the UI, all the score, everything, even the mouse, all gets drawn here in the draw function. Okay, now we know this is a draw function. Can we have a look? Ignore what that is, but importantly, we know this is the color that our screen is, our game screen. So if I was to press F5 or build and then run, and that's it. That is our cornflower blue. Very, very sexy. What we'll do is I'll change that to black, because I was going to change it to black a bit later on, but I'll do it here. So I've just changed the color to black. I've highlighted it and typed in black. And I'm going to run that again. Oh yeah, looks more better. More better, is that a word or a phrase? I'm not sure. More bet. Alright, so we have a black screen. Lovely, we've done something. Let's get on with our, don't forget, focus on the right screen. So I said we need to go into load content, but first of all we need to create our storage for, you remember that we had types, as in int, strings and floats. We're going to add a couple of types. Now one of them, which we'll add at the moment, is for our sprite font, but we will be adding another texture one later on, but I'll do the sprite font first. So just follow my lead here and I'll explain as we go along. Private private, and then I'm going to type sprite font, which is down here. I tab things across, just make it nice and neat. Now I am going to call this outer space font. Lovely. And to do that, I close it. So don't have to do initializing. So this is the name that our sprite font will get stored into. So I've highlighted outer space font, so I don't have to type it. I'm going down here into load content, and I'm just going to go outer space font. I'm just going to equals. I'm just going to move that across, make it nice, and I'm going to do new. No, sorry, I'll do load. No, content. I got there. Load, and then this is if you just do the less than. So I'm just doing the less than. It's the V's and that shape. How would you describe that? Less than, greater than. So if you just do less than, Visual Studio will automatically put the other side in, because this is like a peculiar brackets which tells us that we're going to load in a certain type, because it's using a template and we're loading a certain type. Now we know our type that we want to load in is a sprite font, so just type that in, and then we're just going to open brackets. Now in here we have to put the name of our sprite font, so I am just going to type outer space. It is the name of our sprite font excluding the dot sprite font, so it's just outer space, and then we conclude it with a semicolon. That's lovely, and that is our outer space font loaded in our system. Right, now we need to display it. For this we go into draw. Okay, so how do you display anything on the screen? Generally we will be using the underscore sprite batch. That gives us functionality to effectively begin drawing, do all our drawing, and then end the drawing. So you basically you're telling MONOGAME that you're going to begin drawing, and then you're drawing to the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to do underscore sprite batch dot, which will bring up all the functionality, and then I'm going to type begin, and it's a function, so call it brackets, don't need to pass anything to it, and that's our begin. Right, so from this point on we can draw to the screen, but you have to conclude. I always sort of begin, and what would you think when you conclude your drawing? What would that be called? End. Yeah, of course. So it's underscore sprite batch dot end. Lovely. And so that is begin end. So within here we can draw to the screen, and we use the same thing. We use underscore sprite batch dot. Now I need to display a screen. Now looking down here, draw string. Lovely. This is exactly what we want. So I'm going to do draw string, open the brackets, and it starts giving me parameters. Lovely. So the first parameter we need to do is a sprite font. Now I know ours is called outer space font, so type that one in, put a comma in, and we now need to put our string. So I'm going to put classic. I'll just do it in capitals actually, because there's no real classic space invaders. Lovely. So do it exactly like that. Comma, and looking at this one, a vector2. Vector2s are a structure or class. Now they hold certain functionality. So we're basically going to create a temporary vector2 which basically has our XY coordinates, which we're going to display where we're going to display our font. So I'm just going to go, just follow my lead here. We want a new temporary vector2. So do new is a new command, new, and then we're going to do vector2 open brackets, and in here we're going to pass in our X and Y where we want to draw it. Now I'm going to do 10, 10, and then that. So what that will do, because our coordinates start at the top left of the screen, so it will go in a little bit from the screen, 10 pixels, it go down a little bit from the top of the screen, 10 pixels, and it will print classic Space Invaders. Okay, so we now want that to be a color white. Now we notice our last command here, when we look here, if I just wiggle my mouse around it, it's a color. So we can type color, it's another class, so we can just go dot and then start typing white, and it's come up, and that's it. That's all we need to do. We've chosen a color for it. We can put any color there, but for now we just have white. And as it's a function or command, we'll finish it with semicolon. That's it. It was a lot to take in there, but in essence, them 3 lines have effectively given us a wonderful font we've chosen, which is free. We've loaded it in to our resources, and we will now display it on the screen. Fingers crossed. Here we go. Oh, looking good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Can you tell the dance I'm doing? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've got to that certain age that when I laugh, I clap my hands together. Oh, it's very, very pious. Done it again. All right, so that's looking good. Look at that. Classic Space Invaders. We have our font. We have our game font. So this is half the battle. Right. Now we need to create a 2x2 image. And we're going to use a Windows application. We don't need anything fancy. Paint. So bring up your start menu and start typing paint. Oh, and then hit enter. So okay, now I've already done this. So you'll have your untitled image, and I think if you go to resize, and you then can make it 2x2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cancel. I'm going to create a new image, and resize that one. I'm going to do it by pixels. Alright, so there it is. It's 2x2. This is basically you do a resize, set it to 2x2. It doesn't matter if you got 100 by 100, as long as it's square. So that's our 2x2, and then so if I just zoom in, can we zoom in? Yeah, you can see that's 2x2 there. Lovely. And then we'll save it. So we just go File, Save As, and then we're going to save it as a PNG. You then need to navigate. I've already saved it here. So you then need to navigate to where you store your game. Now you should remember where you set your project up. Now what I've done is in where I've got games, because we'll do more than one game. So Classic Space Invaders. So you double click on that. And in this directory, it's got another directory called Classic Space Invaders, just how Visual Studio creates your project. At that point, I created another directory, Graphics, and this is where I'm going to store all our graphics in here. So I've then created a new image, and I've called it blank 2x2. So it's a 2x2. Okay, and then I saved it. I'm not going to save that because I already have. So that's it. That's our 2x2 image saved. So I'm just going to go no. All right. So that's great. So we now need to install that, load it into our resources. So we can do that by double clicking on content.mgcb again. So double click, and then we got this, and then we go here. Right click, and then we do add existing item, and then we navigate back up to where we stored it in graphics and double click on it, and then we copy the file to the directory. Let's do that, and it's copied. Lovely. So we're looking, we have a blank 2x2 2x2.png, and we also have our font. So I'm just going to save that and just going to test it. I'm just going to hit the build, which is F6, and yeah, looks like it's built. Lovely, no fails. So close it. You also notice that we've got our texture here. Lovely, brilliant. So lastly, we need to load this texture into our game, and then we can use it as and when we need to. Okay, so first things first, follow my lead on this one again. This is very similar to Sprite Font, but it is a texture 2D. Apart from that, it's exactly the same way of loading in. So we're going to do private, and I'm going to call it texture, so it's capital T, texture, so you start typing out, it's texture 2D. Alright, not 3D or texture 2D. And then we're going to call it blank texture. Okay, and then just do a semicolon at the end to end the thing. Okay, so that's that bit done. We now need to go to load content. So underneath that, we're going to do blank texture equals content dot load, and then less than, and it puts up the other peculiar bracket, and then we're going to, in here, we're going to do texture 2D, and then move the cursor, open up the brackets, and then we're in speech marks. We need to put the name of the file. Now this is exactly the same as out of space dot sprite font. Ignore the .png, so we want blank 2x2. That is great. Make sure you get the case correct as well. Okay, and then at the end, put a semicolon in because we're ending that function call. Lovely. So at this point, we will have loaded our texture. So we want to draw something on the screen. So I'm just going to go straight down and do everything all in one go. So we need to draw something. I know we have some functionality within our sprite bank. So it's underscore sprite bank batch, and I'm going to do dot, and I know it's draw. So hit draw, open up the brackets, and we have it gives you some hints. Now this is what we will do. So we need to include our texture. Now we already loaded it in, so it's blank texture. That is our first parameter. So this is the texture, and we now got a destination rectangle. Now a rectangle is very similar to a vector 2. It has functionality with it which will allow you to store your x and y and your width and height. That is basic rectangle. It's your XY position and the width and height of that rectangle. You use it for quite a lot of things, but in here we're going to be drawing a shape onto the screen. And what this will do is to take our little 2x2 texture and stretch it to whatever size we want. So this is exactly the same way as doing the new vector. If you look at the line above, so you do new, and then we call it a rectangle. Open brackets. Now in here we need our XY position. So I'm going to go 100, 100. And we are going to have a width of 100. You can see the width is there, and our height will be 200. Okay. Our last parameter is our color. So if you remember, we just have to type color, the American spelling, hit dot, and then we're given a list of colors. Now I am going to go crimson. I like that color. Okay, we finished that command. So semicolon for the end. Is this going to work? Is this going to work, Neil? Of course it is. Let's press F5. Oh yeah, looking good. Okay, so this is it. We have our string being displayed with a lovely font, which is classic Space Invaders, and then we have a massive big crimson rectangle on the screen. Lovely. And we've done all that with just 6 lines of code and a little bit of faffing, a technical term. Alright, so I'm going to quickly add a couple of more boxes. So I'm just highlighting that line. Do Control C, Control V, Control V. And I'm going to make another one. So I'm just going to move it 50 lines in. Oh, so it's 50 pixels in, and then we're going to make that 300 by 300. And then we're going to call it, I love this color, a rosy brown. Alright, the other one, we're going to have this one as 400. I'm just trying to see if I can get it within the box. And we know that that's 450, so if I make that 400 as well, we need this to be 100 by 100. Hopefully we've got that still on the screen and it's at the bottom of the second box. And we're going to have this one a lovely meaty yellow. If there is a meat that's yellow, I won't advise eating it. Okay. Alright, so we've added another couple of boxes. Let's hit F5 and see what happens. Alright, so it's gone down to the bottom of the screen, but that's quite cool. I'm just going to, just for ease, just going to move it up a little bit. So on the Y, I'm going to make that 370. Okay, we're just going to move that, and yeah, it's just at the bottom of the screen. Alright, so what that shows you, it shows you the order of drawing your boxes shows what's actually coming. You can hide stuff behind. So really, it's the first thing you draw on the screen is the thing at the back, and the next thing you draw covers that one. Then if you draw again, it covers the one as well. So yeah, one on top of the other on top of the other. That's how they draw. So that's great. So so this is basically it. What an easy. Gaming is easy. It's not. Okay, but this is very good. It shows few lines of code, and we've already got stuff on the screen. All right. Well, I think that will conclude this episode, ladies and gentlemen. I think in our next episode we're going to use a sprite. So we're going to get a sprite and we're going to move it around the screen. How wonderful is that? And I'm going to start creating our library. So we're going to have a game object and a sprite class. Don't worry about that. I'll work your way through it. But we'll start getting there. We'll have things up and moving around, and it'll be wonderful. Okay, so if you enjoyed this, please make a comment. If you have any problems or concerns, then please comment. I will put a link in the description for the DA font. And I think you should be able to follow Paint, because it's purely for Windows actually. But any art package that you're familiar with, you just need to create a 2x2 PNG, and then we can load that in nice and simply. Can't think of anything else. I will add some comments in when I upload this video. And yeah, if you have liked this video, please like it. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. And I will catch up with you on the next video. Thank you very much.